Earlier today, Sony put out a press release announcing a next-generation VR system would be coming to the PlayStation 5 at some point after 2021. This is going to be a follow-up to their current PlayStation VR offerings. Originally, the PSVR launched on the PlayStation 4, and that's still accessible on the PlayStation 5, but what they announced today is a next-generation VR system that's going to be taking the PlayStation 5's computing power into account, and it was built with the PlayStation 5 in mind. Unfortunately, there was no pictures or renders of the device released so far. We did get some exciting new information that I'm going to break down in this video. So the first thing is that the device is going to have a better resolution and field of view as opposed to the PlayStation VR. Now this would be expected for any next iteration in a VR product line, but how much of an increase this is going to be is yet to be seen. I'm hoping that the resolution can at least match what Quest 2's resolution is, considering that is a mobile headset. It's done entirely with mobile processing, but still has the highest resolution of, I think, any of the mainstream VR headsets out there. So there's no reason that Sony shouldn't be able to do this, especially considering the power of a PlayStation 5 device. PSVR had noticeably lower resolution than the Oculus Rift, the Vive, or Windows Mixed Reality headsets when they came out in the last generation, so this is somewhere where Sony can really step up to the game and maybe lead the way for the highest resolution of any of the mainstream headsets out there right now. I also expect them to move away from an OLED panel as their display and onto LCDs, just like Oculus and Valve have done. This seems to make sense financially and in terms of image quality, and in terms of field of view, I don't really expect any major increases here, since roughly 100 degrees seems to be the field of view that all major headsets have narrowed in on, but I'd still love to be surprised by Sony here. I think the bottleneck in pushing the field of view of a VR headset higher than 130, 140 degrees, I think at that point you really need to put eye tracking in the headset to allow for foveated rendering, which can reduce the computing power needed from the console. But considering that we don't see eye tracking in any Oculus headset or any Valve headset right now, I think it would be pretty innovative to see that come out with the next generation PSVR, and I just don't expect to see that. I think it's an extra cost. It's going to be too much of an unknown right now, so I don't expect a major field of view increase. There's also going to be a new VR controller. People have really loved the PlayStation 5 controller's haptic feedback, so it would be amazing to see some of that tech in the new VR controllers they do, which I expect we see that. And another thing that the PSVR severely lacked was having great controllers. They used the outdated Move controllers that were okay, but they weren't initially designed with VR in mind, as they came out for the PS Move years before the first VR headset ever came out, and there's no finger tracking on them. The tracking system overall with optical tracking on the headset and controllers was pretty bad. The article also mentions that there's going to be improved tracking, which is a must for both the controllers and headset itself. Also, a lot of people might not remember this, but back in May of 2020, Sony released a research video showing off VR controllers with strong hand and finger tracking capabilities, very similar to what you see on the Valve Index controllers. So I expect some of this tech to be integrated into the new PSVR2 controllers whenever those are released. The video is really fascinating, by the way. It shows a very rough prototype controller, but it shows the capabilities that they were able to achieve with that, and probably what to expect for the next generation of controllers moving forward. So I put a link to that in the description below if you want to check out that video. In terms of better tracking, I'm hoping that it's going to be an inside-out system like the Quest or Oculus Rift S, but a lighthouse-based system similar to the Valve Index or the Vive would also be cool. The original PSVR, again, used an optical-based system with a webcam. The field of view for that wasn't super great. Sony also mentioned that they're moving to a single cord connection, which is a major upgrade from the mess of cables that was seen in the PSVR. But this makes me wonder if it's still going to be tethered to the console, or if there's a possibility that this new device could still have standalone capabilities, just like the Oculus Quest and Quest 2. Having inside-out tracking, you could still do it tethered or you could do it wireless, but seeing a wireless headset from Sony would be a major competitor to Oculus in this space, and I think it's really the right direction that Sony should go in, but I'm still really skeptical that that's going to be the case. With the Quest and Quest 2, for anyone who doesn't know, the headset is completely powered mobily. It has a computer built into it, but if you want to plug it into a PC that's VR ready, you can increase the performance of your games, and you can access, Steam VR's library or the Oculus Rift library and play much more powerful games. And so it's basically like having a PC headset and a wireless headset all in one. And there's no reason that Sony couldn't do this. Of course, it could open up their market to people outside of those who just own a PS5. People who are looking to buy a Quest might instead buy this standalone VR device. But again, I just feel like it's going to be unlikely for them to go that path. I feel like, unfortunately, it's going to be tethered to the console, but I would love to be proven wrong on this. I think Sony has a big hurdle in selling this new device in the fact that people are going to have to buy a PlayStation 5 for $400, and then on top of that, they'll need to buy a PSVR2 to access that content. And so the original PSVR was $399 when that launched. So potentially Sony would be, to get into the Sony VR ecosystem for next gen, you have to spend $800 total. And of course that includes the PS5 console. So you could do that, or someone looking to get into VR could just spend $300 on a Quest 2. And the Quest 2 has a larger amount of games, especially considering you can plug it into your PC and access Steam VR's games and the Oculus Rift library as well, and that's something that's really hard to compete with when you're locking it down to a console. There's also the Valve Index full kit for $1,000, and this of course requires a VR-capable PC to run it, but these days you can realistically build a VR-ready PC for around $500. So in terms of a luxury product, for $700 more, assuming you don't already have a PC that's VR ready, $200 more if you do have the PC, you can get the Valve Index, which is definitely going to be a higher quality experience, at least as far as we know, and gives you a broader library of games. So to me, it just seems like a no-brainer for somebody to go with the Quest 2 or the Index instead if they're looking to get an entry point into VR. Sony does have the advantage of not being Facebook, but I don't know how much that really matters in practice for an average consumer that's just looking to get into the VR space. The other way they can compete is with exclusives, which they do have a few great ones on PSVR. Some of them were timed, but certainly none of them are as notable as, the biggest VR title out there, which is probably Half-Life Alyx. But again, we don't know the specs at all, or what the controllers are like, or if they're going to offer a wireless option, so I could be proven wrong here, and I'd absolutely like to be. Again, there's no pictures, no specific release date other than not in 2021, and no name. You'd think that PSVR2 makes the most sense here. Sony seems to name things in a chronological order, but they didn't commit to naming it that, which is kind of interesting. So, maybe they are looking to take it into a new direction. If they called it something other than PSVR2, that makes me hope that they would have wireless capabilities, but that all remains to be seen. In terms of the design overall, I expect it to be relatively similar to PSVR, since that color scheme already really matches the PS5, and I just don't expect this to change too much. GQ Magazine also did an interview with the president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Jim Ryan, where he talked a bit about the learnings from the first PSVR system and the progress that VR has made over the years, and how they hope to incorporate that into their next generation VR device. He also announced that developer kits for the new VR system are about to go out to relevant developers, and he didn't have too much to say other than the fact that they are committed to VR and they think that it is going to be something that's only going to continue to grow in the future. They also didn't talk about backwards compatibility with previous PSVR games, but I assume that there has to be, since the library of games would just be so limited if they didn't. The Oculus Quest 2 can play Oculus Quest games, the Valve Index can play HTC Vive games. It would be really unfortunate if, you were only able to play PSVR games on the first PSVR and not whatever the next iteration is. However, they mentioned at the end of their article that there is still more to come for the PSVR on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and their commitment to VR is stronger than ever. I remember particularly in 2016 when the Oculus Rift and Vive had just came out, and VR is dead or VR is dying was trending, but Sony seems to really be in this for the long haul. PSVR was proven to be very successful for them, and obviously they want to keep that going and compete with Oculus and Valve and anyone else who steps up. Certainly it'll be interesting to see more details about the rumored Apple mixed reality headset, and I'm sure new companies will continue to join in. Even Nintendo did a limited attempt at VR with their Labo release, and as a side note, that's one company that I would love to see take VR head-on. If Nintendo released a VR device with the quality of a Quest 2 but with the IP and the game design from Nintendo, I think that would really help push VR into the mainstream. Microsoft is still notably silent about VR for Xbox consoles. They originally promised VR support for the Xbox One X back when it was under the name Project Scorpio, and sadly they never followed up with this. But I'd love to see them allow PC headsets to play on the Xbox Series X, or for them to make their own headset. If you'd like to learn more about Sony's next generation virtual reality device, I put a link to the blog post, the GQ interview, and the video of the controller tech in the description down below if you'd like to check those out in more depth. Of course, don't forget to like the video, it really helps me out, helps me in the YouTube algorithm, and lets me know I did a good job. And for more VR news, reviews, and guides, make sure to hit the sub button and hit the bell button. That's it for this video, guys, and I'll see you next time.